Minority Leader Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, Mr. Majority Leader, Mr. President Pro Tem, Mr. Assistant Minority Leader, colleagues, friends, and family. It's my honor to welcome you all to this chamber this morning, this afternoon, as we open the 71st General Assembly. I especially want to take this time to congratulate my colleague and classmate, President Grantham, as we came into the Senate together 6 years ago. I especially want to congratulate him and especially hope that he will remember that while we served in the Ag Committee, I brought him burritos every time. That is not a bribe, it's just a reminder. Most of us electeds have served in the Senate for several years, but there are those that we are fortunate enough to welcome for the first time this morning. I just want to recognize these new members. Senator Don Coram, it's a pleasure to have you here. I am honored that you are sitting in the position of the former senator whom I dearly, dearly thought so much of and will miss. I am extremely pleased to know that you are here. Senator Lois Court, Senator Stephen Finberg, Senator Rhonda Fields, Senator Bob Gardner, Senator Daniel Kagan, Senator Dominic Moreno, Senator Kevin Priola, Senator Jim Smallwood, Senator Angela Williams, Senator Rachel Zinzinger. These are our newly elected Senate members. Please help me welcome them today. When I began my work in the Senate, I entered in May of 2010, in the last few months of the 67th General Assembly. That following January in 2011, I entered the 68th General Assembly, followed by the 69th, then the 70th, and now the 71st General Assembly. And as I begin my last years of my Senate career, I cannot help but take a look back at how much our state has changed in 6 years. Colorado's population was estimated to be 5,029,000 people 6 years ago. Today, it's estimated and growing, even though it's growing every month, 5,540,545. That's a 10% increase in 6 years. 6 years ago, our unemployment rate was 8.9%, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. As of November 2016, it has fallen to 3.2%, among the lowest unemployment rates we've seen in years. But let us not forget that as we've seen unemployment drop in these 6 years, we've seen sharp increases in homelessness among our students, among our young people, particularly in Denver, Pueblo, and Mesa County. 6 years ago, there was no Colorado water plan. It was in 2013 that Governor issued his executive order calling for the Water Conservation Board to create the state's first ever water plan. Coloradans from north to the south to the east to the west depend on this precious resource for everything from their farms to their cities. And this living document hopefully will guide Colorado in protecting and preserving its water for years to come. 6 years ago, our state budget was $18.2 billion. And last year's budget was $27 billion. Civil unions were not part of the laws 6 years ago, and the legalization of retail marijuana had yet to be approved through Amendment 64. and the only beer sold in grocery stores 6 years ago was 3.2%. In these 6 years, technology has quickly nudged us forward. Entrepreneurs are inspiring and creating new tools that are quickly changing not only our world here in the state, our world in the world, and our world in the nation. 6 years ago, you could never have imagined ordering a car with the touch of a screen on a cell phone. Who would have thought even 6 years ago the 71st General Assembly would be discussing bills relating to the operation of self-driving vehicles? In these 6 years, Colorado's blue-collar jobs have gotten, the workforce has gotten older in years. With that comes the need for young people to be trained and to step in and fill these jobs. While visiting in Pueblo this month, I visited Pueblo Community College's welding program. I was able to see how the school is showing Colorado's young people that you don't have to attend a four-year college and get a degree from a four-year college and go into debt to get a good job. One welding student I met, 18-year-old Brett Salazar, will graduate soon with skills he needs to succeed. And thanks to that program at Pueblo Community College, he will enter into a good-paying job at Vestas in Pueblo. Brett's success shows how important trade schools and community colleges are to training young people to replenish our retiring workforce. And we must also be mindful about how advancements in technology like automation are rapidly changing what jobs need to be filled. Trade schools and community colleges will be important to bridging the gap with the manufacturing world to ensure the new dollar jobs of tomorrow and that they can be filled with skilled workers. Agriculture has changed also. Thanks to Amendment 64's passage in 2012, farmers in Colorado now grow hemp as a cash crop, with demand growing for its use in making things like paper and clothing and other things. I know many of you in this chamber have sampled some of Colorado's renowned craft beers. Not only are we ranked third nationwide in craft beer production, but thanks to Colorado farmers, our country is now the world's leading producer of hops, surpassing Germany. One thing that has not changed in farming, though, is the dependence upon the weather. And we must always be mindful of the farmers who can lose a crop any season, any day, just because the wind blows differently than the day before. Today, 6 years later, I am honored to have been chosen by my colleagues to lead the Senate Democratic Caucus. And I'm honored to work with the Senate Republicans to address the many needs and challenges facing our state. And those challenges are many, as you've heard already. We've been elected to respond to these challenges, and Coloradans expect nothing less from us. We can no longer neglect the fund that we need to fix our crumbling infrastructure, nor fail to address the funding needed to repair and build roads and bridges. The American Road and Transportation Builders Association found that 521 of Colorado's bridges to be structurally deficient, meaning key elements of the structure are considered to be in poor or in worse condition than poor. That's over 500 bridges that our Colorado families drive on that are falling apart. As our population has grown over these past several years, we have seen significant traffic congestion, and it's getting worse. And our roads fall into further despair with more and more potholes. The people of Colorado should be able to drive their kids to school and drive to work on safe and reliable roads and bridges. Dollars for transportation means putting people back to work in good paying jobs and making travel safer. But we cannot accomplish these feats through proposals that would cut deeply into our already underfunded classrooms and vital services Coloradans depend upon. Therefore, I urge us to consider the option of moving the hospital provider fee into an enterprise fund. As you all know, last year, every major newspaper and every editorial board, every business chambers of commerce, and rural groups in Colorado came out publicly in support of moving the hospital provider fee into an enterprise fund. This solution was at our fingertips last year, but we were not able to get it done. Moving the hospital provider fee into an enterprise, in fact, honors the voters' intent on Tabor and would not alter the Tabor cap or raise taxes. It simply would isolate the fee and move it from the general fund, where it is improperly and was improperly commingled in the first place. I look forward to working with my colleagues here in the Senate. I have a bill as well to do this, to move the hospital provider fee. But it needs to be worked on together. We are all open to making a bill, to building a bill, to writing a bill that would invite the kinds of changes, the kinds of opportunities where we could come together and do something about this. In the governor's current budget proposal, we see $195 million reduction in the hospital fee collections. That's $195 million lost in matching federal dollars. Hospitals in rural parts of our state hugely benefit from this. Last year, rural hospitals paid $45 million into the hospital provider fee and actually received $542,829 in supplemental dollars. These hospitals not only care for so many hardworking families and their children, but they create jobs across the state, allowing hardworking families to stay in the communities they love and call home. Members, we're not really in a position to pick winners and losers by trading our health, the health of our families, for the health of our roads. We can and should prioritize both of these things. We can do this. We could do it. We can find the solution to take care of both of these things, and we can do it in the 71st General Assembly. I will have to give. I know that I'm going to have to give up some things, but I hope that you will work with me and that you will work, others in my caucus will work with me to find this solution. Democrats are willing to listen, and I know that my friends on this side of the aisle are willing to listen to me, may not agree with me, but I've never gone into one of your offices and you said, don't come in, don't want to hear it. I might have to start bringing burritos to more of you. You know, every year since I've been here, I've heard from people, whether it's people in the community or whatever, that the legislative session really didn't accomplish much. They didn't do anything. They really aren't doing anything. And the University of Denver published a special report on the role and scope and the expectations of state legislatures, which implies in their report that there is the belief that lawmakers, such as ourselves, don't know or understand how to work in bipartisan ways to get things done for the people of Colorado. This year, let's work out solutions so we don't have to choose between the health of our working families and the health of our roads. For our side of the aisle, a major part of our priorities will be protecting the progress that Colorado has made in being at the forefront of the new energy economy. We've been extremely fortunate to be a nationwide leader on energy issues. This is in part due to the leadership and vision of our state and nationally elected officials, including United States Senators Cory Gardner and Michael Bennet, who both supported the federal tax credit for wind and solar, making them a viable option in a competitive market. Our utility companies are taking advantage of these opportunities. And I want to give a shout out to some of these companies, including Tri-State and Xcel Energy, who have invested in renewable energy in ways that benefits our environment, our communities, and Colorado's economy. Not only are renewables like wind and solar cleaner, but they are cheaper to produce and more efficient. Companies like Xcel and Tri-State have shown that being profitable companies and being good stewards of the environment absolutely go hand in hand. It would take looking back farther than 6 years to understand and appreciate Colorado's mining history. While there are challenges facing mining industries today, Colorado's economy continues to be enhanced by some important mining operations in Colorado today. I was very fortunate and delighted to visit the Climax mine in Leadville. The mine began its operation in 1918. Its molybdenum is used mainly in steel alloys. And early operations in the early years, in the early 1918s and so forth, this mine produced this molybdenum, which served as the metal for armored battle vehicles in both world wars. Climax is an economic giant in the high country. Summit and Lake counties have received millions of dollars in tax revenue from Climax mine since 2012. The continuing legacy of excellence in environmental stewardship by this mine was celebrated in August of 2014 with the unveiling of their $200 million water treatment plan. The treatment plan led to a water treatment center. The treated water is discharged into 10 Mile Creek, which flows into local fisheries and recreation areas. This mine is at the forefront of water treatment in the national and international industry, proving that mining and care of environment can stand together. The Climax mine has completed several multi-million-dollar environmental restoration projects where land that was previously elected by mining and mineral processing operations have been restored to a condition that mimics the pre-operations habitat, the vegetation, and the wildlife ecology. I have invited Dr. Gail Meisner and her husband, the president of Climax Mine, Michael Kendrick, to be with us today to accept our appreciation. Michael Kendrick is a graduate of the Colorado School of Mines and later another degree from Denver University. And he has shown through the work Climax Mine has done and continues to do that industry and the environment can work closely together. Will you please join me in thanking him for his service to the management of the mine and for being one of Colorado's finest employers. Michael, will you and your wife please stand? One of our most important goals is keeping Colorado at the forefront of the new energy economy and has been for well over a decade since the passage of Colorado's very own renewable energy standard in 2004. We will continue to support efforts at the state and local levels to conserve our natural environment and address the economic benefits of wind, solar, and energy efficiency. I would add that there are now more than 62,000 clean energy jobs in Colorado. And with the establishment of our Deputy Minority Leader for Conservation, Clean Energy, and Climate Change, we aim to work closely with representatives of all energy industries so we can find a bipartisan solution to the challenges facing Colorado's energy future. We want to be clear. Our intention is not to demote oil and gas, but to promote a formidable renewable energy portfolio and a sustainable, clean, natural environment. That's why we, like vast number of Coloradans, will continue to hold strong in defending our public lands and ensuring that they stay public. Coloradans value these lands as they are a part of our heritage and the very soul of our state, and we will not step away from embracing this value. Our lands are not for sale, not even to the highest bidder. I would like to point out another priority for our Senate Democrats, and that is taking the lead on addressing the heroin and opioid epidemic, which is not only affecting our present but our future as well. In this chamber, there's a good chance the vast majority of you know someone close to you or in your community who is battling addiction. In our state, as well in our entire country, opioid abuse is a serious problem. The abuse of opioids like heroin, morphine, and prescription pain-relieving drugs has been singled out by the Center for Disease Control as one of the top epidemics facing our country today. Our state health department found that overdose deaths from just one kind of opioid painkiller outnumbered all homicides in Colorado in 2015. 259 people died from overdoses of what health officials call natural prescription opioids, drugs like hydrocodone and oxycodone. That compares with 205 people who died from homicide. We are particularly seeing this problem in southern Colorado. Southern Colorado is home to only 6% of the state's population. Meanwhile, the region represented 18.1% of heroin treatment admissions in 2014. This is a problem that hurts young people and tears apart community. That's why, under the lead of our Assistant Minority Leader, Senate Democrats will be introducing a bill to create a pilot program for Routt and Pueblo counties, two areas experiencing particularly high opioid addiction, to make access to life-saving treatment and care more accessible. All across this state of Colorado, there are many challenges. We hear about them, we read about them, and sometimes we experience them firsthand. Towns losing jobs and people because mines are shutting down or closing. A farmer's crop is lost because a flooding creek erodes the land and takes away the floodgate. A rural school lacks science and math teachers. A family grieves the death of a child killed by a drunk driver. Families lacking health care, not able to afford the cost of keeping their families on quality health insurance. But in Colorado, there are many resources to fight the challenges. 35 of these resources are sitting in this chamber. The best resources to fight these challenges are all of us. Some of our community's greatest assets are its leaders. Leaders who listen, who hear the cries of their people or the cries from their land. You all are those resources. Those of you who are farmers and ranchers, you know the cries of a drought and the effects of that. You are all those resources, and I am proud to serve with you. As I started my speech, I started it by looking back by 6 years. And I want to end it by looking back a little farther than 6 years. The class of 1964. That's my graduating high school class. 43 of us spent 12 years together. Some are gone now. Royce was the first one to leave us a couple of years after graduation. He died in the Vietnam War, fighting for his country. And then Donnie, the second one of us to leave, was born with polio and a cleft palate. He was our class clown. He would catch bullfrogs from the creek and hide them in our English teacher's desk. He was indeed the class clown. One day, Donnie's wife, Margaret, another member of our class, said that Donnie looked up and said, "You know, I've looked back on my 24 years, and I see no more reason to live." He said he had nothing more to give. So as Donnie looked back, he took his life with his wife helplessly watching. As we traveled to Taos for Christmas, I received a message in the car on the phone from the daughter of one of my best friends, Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen was one of our classmates. Mary Ellen was at home, moving towards her last hours of her life. Her daughter said, "She wants to hear your voice." So I picked up the phone and I called Mary Ellen, and I talked about the stuff we did together 50 years ago. Looking back to those times, her daughter said, made Mary Ellen smile, though she could no longer speak. And so Mary Ellen has moved on. I wondered later that day as I walked in the snow on one of the trekkings in Taos, why am I still here? Mary Ellen's gone, Royce is gone, Margaret's gone. Why am I still here? Then it came to me. The class of 1964 gave the world farmers, ranchers, bankers, teachers, preachers, butchers, welders, football coaches, nurses, morticians, town pharmacists, and one state senator, and one Democrat. That was reason enough for me to stay, I think. I got to represent the class of 64 as the one remaining Texas Democrat. But really, I don't know why I'm here, but I do know this: Royce, Donnie, and Mary Ellen. I live on and work on for them and their children and their children's children. I think that's what each of us is doing here, working on, going on for the people of Colorado, for their children and their children's children. Thank you, Mr. President.